such is human affairs. China is no saint. Neither Americans, nor British, or French, nor German, sorry. Nobody is a saint. Everybody is after his own interest.
So there are reasons to be concerned about China's rise. That's what you're saying.
Of course there is. Who would be so naive to think that a big guy like China with 1.4 billion people rising, people would not be worried? Right? So the question is not whether, what I do object to is irrational fear. Fear is understandable. Irrational fear is terrible. I asked some questions in the last 3.5 days since I've been in Germany, and I've been talking to a lot of think tank people. I asked them simple facts, and they don't know the facts. And yet they are so, shall I say, irrationally fear of China.
面对中国崛起，担心可以理解，但如果连基本事实都没搞清楚，就开始把恐惧包装成结论，那就未免太可笑了。精彩基金里，这位来自中国香港的企业家直接戳破了西方舆论场里的双重标准：美国、英国、法国、德国，谁又真正是无可挑剔的圣人？大家都在维护自己的利益，为什么一谈到中国，警惕就要被夸张成恐慌，现实政治就要被说成威胁？大家好，这里是嘎人四绝频道。今天这场德国论坛上的交锋，远不只是一次关于中国的普通对谈。中国为什么必须发展经济、建设军力、保障能源和粮食安全？南海争议背后究竟有哪些被反复忽略的历史事实？当西方一边要求中国承担更多责任，一边又对中国的行动处处猜疑，这种怎么做都不对的困局又是谁造成的？接下来我们将跟随这场火药味十足的现场讨论，看一位长期往返中西之间的观察者如何用亲身经历和历史脉络回应关于中国崛起、世界秩序以及中美关系的连番质问。
Given China's treatment of Uyghurs, Tibetans, and dissidents, do you sympathize with those who fear the rise of China?
Well, if you are the Uyghurs, I can certainly understand. Because of historic reasons, the northwestern part of China, Xinjiang province in particular, has always been a mixed area between the Uyghurs and the Han people, which comprise 92% of the Chinese population. It has always been a mixed area. My sister-in-law come from there. And so, but mind you about something, and that is Xinjiang province, together with Tibet, has always been contested by the Russians, the British, the French, even the Americans, and certainly the Germans as well. The great game of the 19th century. Why is that the case? Well, everybody is after something, either defensively or offensively. There's a lot of natural resources in that part of the world. Most of the big rivers in India start from Tibet. And so the great game, now, you say, why are the Chinese, in Xinjiang province and Tibet province? Because they have been that way for the last couple of thousands of years. Rather, my question is, why were the Germans there in the 19th century? Why were the French, the British, the Americans, the Russians, why are they there? So, such is human affairs. China is no saint. Neither Americans, nor British, or French, nor German, sorry. Nobody is a saint. Everybody is after his own interest.
So there are reasons to be concerned about China's rise. That's what you're saying.
Of course there is. Who would be so naive to think that a big guy like China with 1.4 billion people rising, people would not be worried? Right? So the question is not whether, what I do object to is irrational fear. Fear is understandable. Irrational fear is terrible. I asked some questions in the last 3.5 days since I've been in Germany, and I've been talking to a lot of think tank people. I asked them simple facts, and they don't know the facts. And yet they are so, shall I say, irrationally fear of China. Let's get the facts right first.
Talking about getting facts right, here comes your favorite question, Ronnie. Let's talk a little bit about the South China Sea, which is, for all intents and purposes, one of the flashpoints, not only between China and its neighbors, but also in China, in Chinese-American relations. Now, you know, what a lot of people find hard, not only in the West, but also in China's neighborhood, is to square that rhetoric of China's peaceful rise with actions in the South China Sea. Land reclamations, building military bases on those artificial islands. How does that go together?
Very simple. First of all, Japan in 1945 has to give back all the territory that it has taken from its neighbors. Who did Japan give all those islands back to? Spratly and Paracel. Who to? China.
And that is the Chinese version of history.
No, that's not the Chinese version. That's historic facts. The United States 7th Fleet accompanied the Chinese, whatever navy that they had at the time. It is, you want the name of the captain of the American ships that sailed to protect the Chinese Navy? I can find it for you. It's historic fact. If you have a problem with facts, then end of discussion. The fact, I go to America a lot. In America, you talk to anybody who is in the know in Washington, D.C. They would know that those islands were all given back to China, escorted by the 7th Fleet Navy of the United States. Why? In the 50s, they negotiated with the North Korean. At that time, they were buddy-buddy, good friends. They gave some of the islands to the Vietnamese. The rest of it lie there for 70 years. Why did China not do anything for 60 years until now?
Why?
There's an island north of Taiwan. Only, I don't know how far it is, I forgot. Very close. It has been disputed. It's called the Diaoyu Island, or the Japanese call it the Senkaku Island. The Chinese call it the Diaoyu Island. In the Cairo Declaration, at the end of the Second World War, that island, together with the whole of the Ryukyu, were given back to China. Chiang Kai-shek, the leader of China at the time, were busy fighting Mao Zedong, the communist. So he said to the American, let's co-administer it. Then he lost the war to Mao Zedong. Do you think that America will give it to communist China? So America took it. In 1972, if I get my dates right, gave all that to Japan. China contested, so they agreed to disagree. Diaoyu Island, let's leave it to the next generation, according to Deng Xiaoping. Let's leave it to the next generation to resolve it. For now, we'll agree to disagree. About 4 years ago, Japan announced unilaterally that they bought it from the owner of the island, the occupier of the island, whatever it is, they nationalized it. What did America say? Nothing. In fact, after the Japanese unilaterally took it, the Japanese foreign minister, the Australian foreign minister, and John Kerry at that time, the Secretary of State in the United States, the three of them had a press conference that says, we oppose any change to the status quo. What status quo? Before or after the Japanese unilaterally nationalized it? Of course it's after, because the press conference was held afterwards. So the United States cannot say that this thing belonged to Japan because they know what it says in Cairo Declaration. And don't say that it's not fact. Just go back to the Cairo Declaration and read it. And so Japan unilaterally took that island. So China did not dispute it, or they disputed it, but there's nothing they can do. Have you ever come across your mind that if you pick on a big guy, you pick on a guy like me, there's not much consequences. I'm a small guy. If I'm a big guy like that young man did, there's consequences. And China is a big guy. You take that island from China unilaterally, and America said nothing about it. So the Chinese said, okay, you do this, I do that. You react one way, you act one way, I react another way.
And Ronnie, just because China is such a big guy, wouldn't it be a responsible behavior for a country, a global country such as China is, to build trust rather than to sort of pour even more gasoline into the fire in a region which is, even without these tensions, already quite tense?
Pardon my language. You expect a big guy to lie down and say, rape me?
I would expect a big guy to try and build confidence.
Why do they need to build confidence just because you blackmail them and take their bedroom or steal whatever from them? And they say, oh, I build trust. You can take anything you want from me. Come to my house, take whatever you want. I am here to build trust. Which country would do that? Why do you expect that of China?
But other countries would consider legitimate claims from the neighbors for the situation is not as clear as you might see or interpret it.
Do you know that in the 1960s, there was a German radio station that wrote to Manila and said, can I build a broadcasting station on this island? And Manila wrote back and said, we don't own it. Now Manila claims that they own that island. In the 1970s, you check history. Before 1970s, none of those nations in the South China Sea surrounding claim any of that stuff. It is in the 70s when China was undergoing the Cultural Revolution. China was weak, China was in trouble. The pack of hyenas all come up, and there was oil discovered. There's a lot of natural resources, fishery and so forth. Mm-hmm.
这场长达数小时的对谈，表面上是在讨论中国，实际上是在追问一个更大的问题：当一个新的强国登上世界舞台，当旧有的权力结构开始松动，世界究竟应该如何面对变化？从 Ronnie Chan 的个人经历出发，我们看到的并不是一个抽象的国家崛起故事，而是一个具体的人如何在怀疑、观望和亲身考察之后，重新判断中国的发展方向。他出生于香港，成长于对大陆充满戒心的家庭，原本也没有打算回到亚洲，但在家族和事业的推动下，他用1年半时间走遍中国大陆，亲自观察改革开放之后的真实变化。最终决定留下来，把自己的未来与这片土地联系在一起。这个故事最重要的地方，不是他赚到了多少财富，而是他提醒我们，判断一个国家不能只依靠过去的印象，也不能只听取单一立场的叙述。一个曾经贫穷、封闭、饱受动荡的国家，经过几十年的经济发展，已经成为深度融入全球体系的重要力量。今天，中国的贸易、能源、科技、制造业、基础设施和消费市场都已经与世界其他地区紧密相连。北京做出的许多决定早已不只是中国自己的事情，而会影响全球供应链、国际金融、地区安全以及普通人的日常生活。但看见中国的实力，并不等于必须忽略中国的问题。视频中提到的监控、新闻自由、异议人士、香港治理、新疆、西藏以及南海争议，都是无法绕开的现实。一个国家越强大，外界对它的期待就越高，对它的行为也会越敏感。中国可以解释自己的历史记忆、安全焦虑和发展需求，但这些解释不能自动消除其他国家和当地民众的疑问。真正的国际尊重不仅来自经济规模和军事实力，也来自能否让别人相信力量会受到约束，承诺能够被兑现，争议可以通过规则和谈判解决。这场讨论最值得回味的是双方不断发生的碰撞，一方强调中国的崛起有历史背景，也有现实的安全压力，另一方则提醒国家不能只用自身的恐惧来解释一切，更不能把所有行动都包装成自我防卫。中国担心被遏制，美国及其盟友也担心中国改变现有秩序，双方都认为自己是在回应对方，结果却可能在不断回应中加深误判。国际关系最危险的地方，往往不是某一方单独决定发动冲突，而是双方都相信自己只是被迫采取行动。能源安全、粮食安全、海上通道和海外利益是中国走向世界的重要动力。“一带一路”倡议 也不能简单的被看成纯粹的经济项目或者纯粹的地缘政治布局，它既包含市场、铁路、港口、能源和贸易，也必然带来影响力、债务风险、规则竞争以及安全考量。经济从来无法与政治完全分离，问题在于合作能否真正让参与者共同受益，项目能否透明、可持续。沿线国家有没有平等表达和退出的空间，只有当发展成果能够被当地社会广泛感受到，合作才可能从战略工具转化为长期信任。视频还谈到了美国的角色。过去几十年，美国承担了大量全球责任，也因此拥有巨大的影响力。但美国历史上本来就存在国际主义与孤立主义之间的摆动。当美国逐渐减少对外承担的责任，世界不会因此停止运转。其他国家必然会填补留下的空间。中国的影响力扩大，既是自身实力增长的结果，也与西方内部的分歧、疲惫和战略缺位有关。换句话说，世界秩序的变化不只是中国主动走出去，也包括西方自身正在改变。真正需要警惕的，不是承认中国已经强大，而是把对中国的认识简化成两种极端：要么把中国描绘成可以解决一切问题的理想样板，要么把中国想象成所有危机的唯一来源。非理性的赞美和非理性的恐惧，本质上都拒绝面对复杂事实：中国不是圣人，美国、欧洲以及其他国家也不是圣人。每个国家都有自己的历史记忆、利益边界和价值选择，也都曾经在不同地区施加过影响。承认这一点，不是为任何错误开脱，而是为了让讨论回到事实，而不是停留在情绪和标签上。不过，所谓尊重差异，也不能成为压制批评的借口。不同文明可以有不同制度和价值观，但基本的人性尊严、对生命的尊重、对事实的诚实，以及通过和平方式解决真正成熟的国际关系。不是要求所有国家变得一模一样，而是在不一样的前提下，仍然能够建立沟通机制，遵守共同规则，并为最坏的结果设置防护栏。美中关系尤其如此，两国之间存在竞争，也存在无法切断的相互依赖，贸易、金融、气候、核扩散、公共卫生和地区冲突都不可能靠一个国家单独解决。把对方定义成永远的敌人，或许能带来短期的政治动员，却会把所有妥协都变成软弱，把所有合作都变成背叛。对世界来说，最现实的目标不是让某一方彻底取代另一方，而是避免竞争滑向失控，让竞争在规则之内进行，让合作在必要的时候能够继续。回到节目的核心主题，所谓世界失序，并不代表世界已经没有秩序，而是旧秩序正在承受压力，新秩序还没有完全成型。在这个过渡阶段，强国会更加谨慎，也可能更加冒险，中小国家会寻找平衡，不愿被迫选边。普通人则会在物价、就业、能源和安全问题中直接感受到大国竞争的后果。因此，今天我们真正需要培养的不是简单站队的习惯，而是辨别事实、理解利益、识别宣传和保持独立思考的能力。面对中国崛起，我们既不能拒绝现实，也不能放弃警惕。面对美国和西方，也不能只记得他们曾经承担的责任，而忘记他们同样存在的局限。世界未来会走向合作、对抗，还是在两者之间反复摇摆，最终取决于各国能否承认彼此的存在，能否把安全感建立在沟通和规则之上，而不是建立在对对方的彻底压倒之上。这场对谈留下的启示也许很简单：力量越大，责任越大，影响越广，越需要克制，越想被世界尊重，越要学会尊重世界。欢迎大家在评论区留下你的看法。你认为中国崛起对世界意味着更多机会，还是更多风险？美中两国应该继续竞争，还是必须加强合作？也欢迎点赞订阅，观看更多精彩视频。